This is your one and only FireSpark81 with your daily dose of video goodness, and today we are going to cover everything you need to know about the absolute massive content patch that is coming for VRising. Let's get to it. First off, what is Gloomrot? Well, they're calling it an expansion, but their game is still in early access, and expansion is completely the wrong term. I don't know why they are calling it that, and it drives me nuts, so I'm going to rant about it for a second. This isn't an expansion. An expansion is something you do to a game once your game is complete. This game is still in early access, so this would be a content update. And of course, they state that it's free, like they're doing you a favor by finishing the game they promised to finish that you bought into. Anyway, I digress. Secrets of Gloomrot is a major content update coming May 17th. Enter a massive new zone with 2 unique areas twisted in the pursuit of cruel science and raise your multi-level castle. Navigate polluted valleyways and lightning-scorched highlands to face the mutated experiments and mechanical wonders spawned from the twisted imaginations of the Transcendum. Travel to the heights of Gloomrot and face their greatest creation, the ultimate weapon of war. Dun dun dun! Now that you have a brief understanding of this content update and the theme of it, let's break down all of the goodness that comes with it. I have spent hours combing through their blogs to get you as many details as possible. So first off, we have World Revamp. Experience, expansion, and improvements to the biomes you already know. Explore the new vineyard in Silverlight, a reimagined Cursed Forest experience, and a whole host of new points of interest in Dunley Farms. So first off, let's talk about the changes to the map. So you can see in this side-by-side comparison, they've added a rather large chunk of land up at the top next to the Cursed Forest and above Dunley Farms. You'll also notice that it appears that the Gloomrot is 2 separate sections. So there is the brown section and then a darker green section. And we can also see there is going to be 5 new villages in that area. And I'm assuming the large castle at the very top, at the tip up there, is going to be where the boss resides. However, I could not find any definitive confirmation on this, but it just appears to be that way. Some other changes that we'll notice to the map is they've improved the graphics on some of the resources. They gave us an image of the updated quartz nodes, and another improvement that they've made to the map is traders. In the current version of the game at the release time of this video, traders don't really have much of a use. They exist, you can go there, you can spend coins, but overall they're kind of meh, and if you never mess with them at all in the game, you are really not going to miss out on anything. Well, they want to make a change to that and make traders much more viable. So they state, expanding on trade functionality and adding markets gives an option for players to be able to spend their coins on a host of ever-changing goods, allowing them to find other avenues for acquiring rare goods. This could be something as simple as gems that haven't been dropping, or something as rare and complicated as weapon recipes. Or maybe you just really want drapes. Who doesn't love good drapes? So it looks like we're going to see a whole host of new goodies in the trading markets, and of course some traders will be more willing to do deals with you as a vampire than others. Some traders you're going to need to be disguised in order to do deals with them. Moving on, they state weather hazards. Succumb to the choking mist of the Cursed Forest, dodge deadly light strikes in the hills of Gloomrot, witness the world come to life as gale winds shake the trees. I couldn't find any more information on this really. It just looks like they've made improvements to the weather system, and the environment is going to affect us a little more than it did before. Currently, the only real map hazards we have to deal with are sunlight and garlic, so it looks like they're just adding more and expanding that system. Then they go on to feature the trading hubs, which we already talked about in the world revamp because that's part of the world revamp. Now the big one, multiple floors for your castles. We have a ton to cover here because this is a big change. They state, reach for the heavens with dramatically improved building. Now you can build upward with castles capable of sustaining multiple floors. Raise a castle worthy of your empire. And then down at the bottom, they state multi-level castles, a new beginning. Build multiple floors and reign supreme over your territory. Lay claim to the land and build freely without having to claim it piece by piece. And we're going to talk more about that in a second. 2nd. Castle customization. Build all new stairways and expansive gardens. Elevate your territory's style with an updated building UI to give you access to more color variations and many more decorations. Then we have new crafting stations. Create more tools of darkness with the new crafting stations. Jewel Crafter Station, Legendary Forge, Fabricator, and Leatherworking Station. All right, so let's break this down piece by piece. Let's start with the multi-story castles. So stairs are the building piece that's going to allow you to go up a floor, which is kind of obvious, but I don't think it's going to work the way most people think it's going to work. So in a normal building game, you build the 2nd floor and then you can add stairs. In this game, you're going to have to place your stairs first, walk up the stairs, and then that's going to allow you to start placing floor. They state these staircases are critical. Once built, they'll be your link to the higher levels and thus are indestructible during a siege. So you heard that right. Everything in your castle can be destroyed, but the stairs will still stand. And I assume that this also means that chunks of floor on the multiple levels will also still stand if they are connected to your stairways. So you will be able to build up to 3 stories high. That is the limit for the height of your castle. And from the looks of it, these stairs do not have to be connected between floors. That means that the floor that leads to a solid path between stairs is probably going to continue to stand if your castle gets destroyed. They also stated that railing will form wherever it is needed. So if you do not place a wall, but you place floor down, railing will form around that flooring. This railing is important because it prevents attacks. If you are standing out on a balcony, this railing will prevent them from chucking spears up at you and damaging you, and also prevents you from attacking down. However, you can jump over the railing to land on the floor below. Roofing will continue to work the same way. If there's 4 walls enclosed, a roof will form. They did show a little video of building a 2nd floor, and it looks like if there is roof in the way and you place flooring down, it just overrides the roofing. They have also added new castle teleporters. These are short range teleporters and they are paired. So think of it kind of like a quick elevator to get from floor to floor if you don't want to walk upstairs. They also will lose their teleportation functionality if your castle is under siege, which I think is interesting. I'm not sure what purpose that serves. I guess to prevent you from easily getting away or teleporting to a room that the enemy can't get into. And last but not least, they've condensed the build menu to make it easier to navigate so the lists aren't quite as big and added more modular designs. I couldn't find too much specific detail about this other than they said you would like place one thing and then you could add other things to it, or you would place a thing and then customize it in a separate menu. So for example, instead of having something like a vase with multiple designs and all of those different designs showing up in your build menu, you'll have just one vase. You place that vase after you've placed it, then you can change the way it looks. This will just condense everything and make building a little more streamlined. We're getting 13 new bosses. They state encounter over a dozen new legendary V-Bloods between Gloomrot and updates across the world. Are you brave enough to climb to the heights of Gloomrot and face down the ultimate weapon of war? So this one's interesting because I don't know if they're including the boss reworks to this list. They mentioned that they've reworked some of the bosses, but they've been rather tight-lipped about the new bosses or boss reworks. Even this guy that we see in the trailer, which I can only assume is the new final boss and what they refer to as the ultimate weapon of war. But the way that this little clip of text here reads leads me to believe that we're not actually getting a full 13 new bosses, that they have included some of the reworks. Not only are we getting new boss fights, we're also getting 30 new enemy types. They state the world is alive with new factions, both monsters and men. Meet new spiders, elementals, and undead abominations all across the world. Dive into Gloomrot where mutants, experiments, experimenters, and technologists await you. As far as what I could find on the new enemies, they've been rather tight-lipped. They did not give a ton of information on the new enemy types. They show some early examples in one blog post, and I'll put those on the screen now. We got this jumping looking rock monster. We got this winged obsidian looking thing, which actually looks like it may be drawn in there. I'm not 100% sure. We have some early concept art for some new undead and a new kind of spider, which apparently can web you up when your health gets low. Even on the blog where they show these, they don't go into any type of detail on them. And now we start to get into the fun stuff, the stuff where they've given us a ton of info about. First off, improved magic. Spells have been reimagined and made more specialized. Become a master necromancer, a dangerous illusionist, or something entirely unique. The choice is yours. New spell schools. School, Storm. Harness lightning and thunder to lay waste to your foes. Become electricity itself, crackling between your enemies while you bring down the full fury of the storm. Then we have new weapon types. 2 brand new high-quality weapons to arm yourself with. Slice through scores of foes with the greatsword. Dive into the new age experiment with experimental black powder weapons with the dual pistols. Legendary weapons. Find one-of-a-kind ancient weapons and restore them to their former glory. Randomized properties enhance your weapon's abilities as well as offer on-hit effects to further expand your strategies. New tools for battle. Craft jewels to channel your spells, modify them to your liking, and build a spellbook totally unique to your peers. I got a ton of detail on all of this stuff, so let's start breaking it down. Let's start with the revamp and rework to spells. They state each of the main spell subdivisions has been reinforced to have stronger identity. Each of the spell schools have their own specialized debuff that is applied to the target when they are cast. Starting off with Blood Magic. Blood Magic specializes in healing and will apply the leech debuff to the target, allowing you to siphon health from them as you are attacking them. Unholy applies the Unholy debuff. This debuff amplifies damage and raises a short-lived skeleton fighter from any target that dies with this debuff on it. Chaos will apply the Ignite debuff. The Chaos School of Magic is focused on high damage and will offer some AoE and crowd control. The Ignite debuff will continue to do what it has done before and burn the target for some damage over time. The Illusion School of Magic actually applies a debuff and a buff. It applies a debuff to the target and a buff to the caster. The buff applied to the target is the Weaken debuff. Weaken lowers the damage of the thing that it's applied on. The buff applied to the caster is Phantasm. Phantasm is a stacking buff that increases your chance to bypass spell cooldowns, allowing you to cast a spell for free. This is similar to the Scholar's Blood type. However, there are a few key differences between Phantasm and the Scholar Blood type. Phantasm is a stacking buff, and each stack you have increases your chance of casting a spell for free. Once it does proc and you do get your free spell cast, you lose all stacks of Phantasm and have to start over. I could not find anything talking about whether or not this stacks with the Scholar Blood type or if they've reworked the Scholar Blood type. I'm gonna say there's probably a pretty good chance, and this is just speculation, there's probably a pretty good chance that the Scholar Blood type got reworked. It was a bit overpowered, and it was pretty much the only blood type in most cases worth going after. The Frost Spell School of Magic applies the Chill debuff. And I know you may be thinking, well, that's the same thing it did before, and that is true. However, they've made some tweaks to it. For one, it can now affect bosses, and the other major change is that it no longer just freezes the target. You have to cast it twice, consuming the initial chill in order to freeze the target. They also talk as though some specializations with jewels will allow this to happen easier, or possibly with other spells. And last but not least, we have the new Storm School of Magic. This one is an interesting one. So this one applies the static debuff. The static debuff reads, electrify your enemy for 5 seconds, causing physical damage dealt to them to trigger a shock, dealing 10% magic damage. And they even give us an example of what one of the spells from the Storm School of Magic would look like. I don't know why that was such a mouthful to say, but it was. And that is the spell Polarity Shift, which states, launch a projectile that deals 80% magic damage and inflicts static. You and the other target swap locations on impact. If the target is immune to the effect, you instead teleport to the location of the target. One other change that I found mention of was diminishing returns on stacking debuffs to make it easier for balancing. And that was pretty much it for that. They didn't go into a lot of detail other than diminishing returns, making it easier to balance. Next, let's talk about jewels, because jewels are absolutely freaking awesome and I'm so excited to mess with them. So first off, you will be able to find them in the world and you will also be able to craft them. I think the crafting aspect is really interesting, and as I mentioned before, you will also be able to customize them. This is going to create a ton of different build diversity, which is very welcome in a game like this. They state jewels will allow players to create stronger combos when pairing spells by allowing you to apply and consume various spell school specific effects into even stronger effects or trigger explosions, novas, forking projectiles, and more. You should be able to start finding them around the time you're able to kill Clive the Firestarter and V-Bloods of similar tiers or higher. Or I should say and higher. So where all can you get them? Well, they will drop from standard units, V-Bloods, and chests, but will most often be found in more extravagant treasure chests. They state that when you loot a jewel from an area, it will be tailored to the progression level of that area. So you'll only be finding jewels you can currently use or will be able to use soon. As you progress, the number of spells you can find jewels for will increase. Jewels will slot directly into your spells, and as long as they are equipped, they will not drop on death. You can only equip one jewel per spell. From what I can tell from the images that they've shown, it looks like each tier level gives the jewel another ability. So tier 1 has one ability, tier 2 has 2 abilities, and tier 3 has 3 abilities or modifiers. So what do some of these jewels look like? Well, we have a few examples. So first off, with Polarity Shift, they had a jewel equipped to that one that states that it triggers a lightning nova at the origin location, dealing 43% magic damage and inflicting static on nearby enemies. It also reduces the spell's cooldown by 12%, and it inflicts a fading snare on enemies hit lasting 1.3 seconds. But we do have some other examples, and you can see here an example of tier 1 having 1 modifier, tier 2 having 2, and tier 3 having 3. So Shadow Bolt does Shadow Bolt things, then it also explodes on hit, dealing 29% damage and inflicting leech on nearby enemies. Corpse Explosion does Corpse Explosion things and inflicts agony on the target affected by Condemn. Agony deals 12% damage 4 times over the duration, and it also triggers a second lesser explosion at the same location, dealing 56% damage, and it also increases the duration of the snare by 0.6 seconds. Then we have Spectral Wolf, which does Spectral Wolf things and also consumes weakness to spawn a wisp, healing self or ally for 36% based on your spell power, and it increases the maximum bounces by 1. So as you can see, spells are getting massive changes and massive reworks that are going to make the spell system so much more interesting. Next up, let's talk about the new weapons. So I don't have a ton of info on the new weapons. We get the Greatsword, and they show some attack animations of the Greatsword, what it's going to look like. Apparently this is a large AoE weapon. And then we have the dual pistols, and that's pretty much all we know is that they're dual pistols. They're probably going to be ranged because they're pistols. I assume they won't be super long range though, because that would be really strong. Legendary weapons, on the other hand, we have a bit more info for. So first off, you're going to find pieces of them, and then you will restore them, and that will restore them to their former glory, giving you the ability to use them. The stats on them will be randomized, which is very, very interesting, and I think a really good change. And you can see here is an example of one of the legendary weapons. Note that it says that it's bloodbound. It's called the Screaming Blood Bringers, and it does increased physical power, increased physical damage to wood, increased move speed, increased health, and also increases your physical crit strike by 8.8%. And its on-hit effect is Blood Infusion, which states that hits inflict leech, so it steals life from the target that you're hitting with it. This could be very, very strong paired with specific spells, and we don't even know what all the jewels look like for said spells. Next, we have New Blood Hunt. New Blood Hunting update includes an updated new animated UI and improvements to blood tracking. We have movement and inventory, explore the world more quickly and smoothly with updates to travel shapeshifting forms, converted vampire horses, new teleporters in your castle, and improvements to the environmental flow. Carry more items on your journey with bags. Yep, it looks like we're getting bags, but I don't think it's gonna be the way we all think it is. If you take a look at this screenshot here, you can actually see those bags. It looks like one of the bags has some scrolls on it, the other one has some gems on it, the other one has money, and the last one has some leaves. I'm assuming the first one is obviously going to hold scrolls, the second one's probably going to hold stones or jewels specifically, then of course the next one would hold your coinage, and the last one probably holds specific resources of some type. You can also see there that there's a little arrow pointing up, which I'm assuming is going to allow you to equip different types of bags in the different slots. You can also see these bags don't hold a whole heck of a lot. This character appears to be an in-game character, and it's holding 2 of 2 scrolls, or it could be a situation where that arrow goes up and they have equipped 2 of 2 bags. I'm not 100% sure there without seeing more of the UI. One other thing I want to point out, which is relatively interesting, is if you look down at the very bottom of the inventory, you can see there are 2 buttons. buttons. And these buttons have a little swirly symbol on them, which is similar to the swirly symbols we see for teleportation, which makes me wonder if this allows you to set some type of home location, and if you maybe have the ability to open your inventory and recall back to home. They state that they've made traveling much easier. This would be a very welcome thing to have. Being able to recall no matter where you are directly back to your castle would be a fantastic addition. Note that that is purely speculation. I'm not 100% sure what those buttons do. Let me know what you think they do down there in the comments section. Also, do you think I'm right on the bags? Do you think I'm wrong? Let me know what you think and your speculations down there in the comments section. We're also going to see new vampire cosmetics and improvements made to the sound and music. Now, a few little random odds and ends that I want to talk about and cover here. First off, they mention in one of the blog posts their roadmap, so we're only going to get 2 more large updates after this. Now, I'm sure they're going to continue to add, tweak, and change things. They plan on covering this game or sticking with this game for a long period of time. But the second update, the one we are going to get after Gloomrot, will be the one that leads to full release. And then after the game is fully released, we will get one more large content update. They're also going to change, and I kind of mentioned this briefly before, how we claim land. And I probably should have stuck this in at that part, but it is what it is. So there's going to be a new land plot system. It won't be a system anymore where you place down your castle heart and then you're claiming tile by tile by tile. You will claim a specific plot of land, and that will be your plot of land. Their goals for this were to fit more players in a more balanced way on the map, reduce player friction by preventing players from blocking other players, and ensure all players have enough space to build. They also hope that this will prevent technical issues like players being able to land on unclaimed ledges. I know this was a very big contentious thing when it came to PvP, because you couldn't claim an entire ledge and then you could fly as a bat and land right on the ledge and then siege somebody's castle from there. I know this was very frustrating for a lot of people, and there are a lot of people tried to figure out ways to prevent this from happening. That shouldn't be an issue anymore. And in that same sentence, they also said, and buffer castles as well as servant armies. I'm not sure how this is going to stop people from using servant armies. Don't know, but apparently they're hoping this will stop that from being a thing. Last thing they hope this does is to make it easier to detect and communicate how popular a server is. And it could also allow for interesting systems in the future, like being able to move your castle. Pretty much all I have on there. I think I kind of like that they're doing this, because the way they had it before, even for a PvE server, was a bit of a pain. So this system, this land plot system that they have planned, should be a welcome change, I hope. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Yes, you're gonna have to wipe your servers. They state, everyone must understand that with such a massive swath of changes to the world of Vardorian or Vordoran, whatever it's called, it will be impossible to update old saves with the upcoming patch and remain consistent. For this reason, we want to make sure it is understood that to play on the newest version of VRising after a huge content update like this one, we're planning for 2023, and we already got the release date. They mentioned this a long time ago. It will require being played on an entirely fresh world. So this is something that just comes with early access. Also, plan on it happening again. It's probably going to happen at release because they plan another huge content update, and there's about a 90% chance that we're gonna have to wipe again. That's just how it is with early access games. All right, that's pretty much all I have for you for this one. Did you find this video helpful or informational? If you did, consider hitting the subscribe button and notification bell so you can be notified when I upload other videos. I want to give an absolute massive shout out and thank you to all of my channel supporters for helping to keep these videos sponsor free. You all are absolutely amazing people. If you would like to become an official channel supporter, check out the links in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. If you're shy, you don't like to comment, just hit that thumbs up button and share your support. Until next time, thanks for watching.